Teachers' unions refuse to work until they get support for our communities and families, including canceling rent and mortgage, a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures, providing direct cash assistance to those not able to work or who are unemployed, and other critical social needs. This is the teachers' union, folks. This is one of the biggest parents are not having this. As a parent myself, I can speak to this. I really can. I, here in the state where I reside, have a choice. Either, and I gave it to my kids to make. My daughter is 14 and my son is 11. I gave it to my kids to make. You can either go to school where you're mandated to wear a mask, but you're in school all day with your friends, or you can stay home and do distance learning because they have the choice. And I'm not sure what my daughter's doing for high school, but I know that my son has decided he wants to go into school. I got them very special masks. Very special. Very special masks they'll be wearing into their classes the first couple of days of school until they have to wear them if they choose to go to school. If they choose to stay home, I will do what I did during the pandemic last year, and I will dedicate hours of my day to help my kids learn the material that they need. And I gotta say, something that really shocked me when I was going through this process, like there would be posts on the school board and posts and stuff, and all I would see are these people complaining, I don't know this. I don't know how to do this math. I don't know I don't know history. I don't know geometry. Listen. That's more an indictment on you than it should be on anything else. Like, stop complaining about what you don't know and get your act together. Go in there and do your thing. Teach your kids. Get your act together. Learn the stuff. You can actually go to Larry's page if you want and you're a teacher. The Wild World of History. It's www.wildworldofhistory.com. And he has a full U.S. and world history curricula for homeschoolers and educators of all types, 9 through 12. I'm seriously pondering using that curriculum in tandem with what my kids are learning. And you know what? I know that when I lived in New York, one of the things that I wanted to do was to start a homeschooling co-op on Long Island where I used to live because I was so sick and tired of New York schools. It was hideous. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. They're not teaching for learning. They're teaching so that these kids can take a standardized test. It doesn't work. The kids are stressed out. They're miserable. The backwards way that they're teaching the topics, it was all just insanity. I was so glad to get out of there. But I'm just saying. So there's that. So the schools, went a little off topic there. I hope you guys are okay. The teachers unions are causing a big problem with their day of resistance because everything is resistance, everything. Gosh, I can't wait. I cannot wait for this to be, there was a thread on Twitter that I went over on the podcast yesterday, and it's really, really, really good. And it talks about what will happen this election. Just out of, for argument's sake, it talks about, like, if Trump, let's just pretend for a second before we have about 2 minutes before the break, but let's just pretend for a second that, actually, you know what? Let's take our break right now. You guys, we'll be back right on the other side of the break. You're listening to Uncover DC with Tracy Beanz. We'll catch you on the flip side.
This is Uncover DC with Tracy Beanz on WSMN, AM 1590 and FM 95.3.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt, and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean, and there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
You're listening to Uncover DC with Tracy Beanz.
All right. Welcome back. Thank you guys for taking that little break with me. It was nice to stretch my legs for a moment. Take a little stretch, grab a breath of fresh air. In the minute and however long that break lasts. Juan, the producer, what an amazing guy. Fantastic guy. So before we went to break, I was about to talk to you about this thread that I read on Twitter. Really, really great thread that talks about the sort of paradigm we find ourselves in right now. Like, what'll happen if President Trump doesn't win versus what will happen if he does win. What the electorate looks like now as opposed to what it looked like 4 years ago. How the, like, you know, for libertarians and also for conservatives that are, you know, normal everyday Americans, not the hardcore stuffy suit wearing rhino Republican, you know, neoconservative types, how they're sort of dwindling. The Republican Party is changing fundamentally, and how voting a majority Republican all up and down ticket, getting a majority in every single house, even all the governors, etc., can really push those rhinos out, because we can identify the rhinos then, Republicans in name only, and we can even let them be primaried by Dem candidates and win, because our majority will be so great that we'll get rid of them. I don't know if that makes any sense. I mean, there may be even moderate Democrats that come back that run on, you know what I mean? I don't know. Listen, all of this we're so polarized, but basically what this thread said was that either, like, if the left wins the election and keeps the House and takes the Senate, they are going to force their will on us and fundamentally change the country. They'll get rid of the Electoral College. They'll make it a nationwide popular vote. They'll make mail-in voting the standard. They'll fundamentally change the country. Amnesty, all kinds of stuff. And they will cram it down our throats, and they'll do it violently. However, if Trump wins the election, they will go into overdrive with their violence. But what this person said was basically, I would rather take my chances with a individual, liberty-minded Americana president that cares about the American people than I would with a violent sort of, you know, a potential violent uprising should the other solution happen, as we're trying to be crammed into Marxism. So it was a really interesting thread to look back and forth at, and it started getting me down the sort of path of thinking about what just came out. I listen, I don't typically read this, but I was reading a thread about a study that they're doing. Corey's Digs on Twitter did a thread about story that came out in Gateway Pundit about the federal government and Yale holding clinical trials on how best to, quote, persuade Americans to take COVID-19 vaccines. And they use a bunch of different tactics in this clinical study. 1/15 of the study's sample is subjected to each of these tactics. And it's about how messaging can psychologically force you to change your mind on vaccination for COVID. Now, again, these vaccines are being rushed through in lightning speed. And I have done research on these, I've done research on the COVID vaccines. Forget the rest of vaccines. That's a whole different ballgame. That's what we could talk about that another day. But for just this specific vaccine, they're rushing this through. And not only that, they are painstakingly flawed. There were a bunch of reports that UncoverDC did where we talked about this. Every single time they've attempted to come out with the vaccine, SARS, MERS, it has been harmful in the trials. It has been harmful to whatever organism is getting the test. When virus is reintroduced after the quote vaccine, the organism dies. It happened. The SARS vaccine just most recently was completely scrapped because they cannot do it. And there are therapeutics, but listen, we're going to get into some of what's going on with these doctors in a second now, these America's frontline doctors. But listen to this. Here's the message for guilt. 1/15 of the sample will be assigned to this message. The message is about the danger that COVID-19 presents to the health of one's family and community. The best way to protect them is by getting vaccinated, and society must work together to get enough people vaccinated. Then it asks the participant to imagine the guilt they will feel if they don't get vaccinated and spread the disease. Imagine the guilt you'll feel. It's sick. There's one for trust in science. Vaccination is backed by science. If one doesn't get vaccinated, that means that one doesn't understand how infections are spread or who ignores science. This is the shaming message. And Dr. Stella Emanuel, who was targeted by the left, seemingly because of her religion, was interviewed the other day, and the clip said this. She was interviewed about what her next steps are, and here's what she said. Okay, here we go.
So what are your immediate plans? You got...
My immediate plan is to see patients. My immediate plan is to keep screaming till they stop letting Americans die. And I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to be silenced. My immediate plan is to pray until these powers, these diabolic powers that want to destroy these nations are destroyed. And it's going to be war. Do you understand me? I'm a warrior. I'm a sniper in the kingdom of God. It's on.
So...
Very nice. Very, very nice. If there's one thing that I love about Stella, Dr. Emanuel, is that she's fearless. She's fearless. She doesn't care what they say about her. She doesn't care what they throw at her. It doesn't really matter. She is a soldier. She's a soldier. And I just, you have to support people like that. And it's really crazy because you see, some of the comments underneath her and some of the other doctors, some of the other doctors that are like on this panel, like Dr. Simone Gold, for example, who shared this yesterday. This is the FDA commissioner that is talking about hydroxychloroquine right now, and I just have to say that
the question you're asking me is it.
You know what happens? This is what happens when you do live radio. You have little mistakes here everywhere. The lower third in this talks about debunked video and vaccine. Debunked video and vaccine. Debunked video. They're talking about the MSNBC or NBC News, I should say. Lower third says debunked video. Who debunked it? Who debunked the video? Did they just say it was debunked so then it's debunked? They act like there are no studies on this whatsoever. They're out of their minds. Let's listen to the FDA commissioner here.
The question you're asking me is a decision between a doctor and a patient. A doctor and a patient needs to assess the data that's out there. FDA does not regulate the practice of medicine, and that, in the privacy of a doctor-patient relationship, is where that decision should be made.
End of story. But what it doesn't stop people from in the comments from saying, how dare you? What an embarrassment to our profession you are. What an embarrassment. We learned from Dr. Tadaro, another one of the doctors in this group, that his documentary that he made demonstrating how HCQ works against COVID-19, which received millions of views and was shared by Elon Musk, was removed and censored from Google.
There's been this orchestrated attack, which I think most people that look at independent media sources can see has been going on against hydroxychloroquine. And this actually started when, so I co-authored the first Google document that got tens of millions of views. It was tweeted out by Elon Musk proposing hydroxychloroquine as a treatment for coronavirus. This was back in March. And that Google document was taken down, okay? And again, the social media platforms, the World Health Organization is the authority, and anything that goes against them is subject to censorship. There's been this.
The thing is that Dr. Tadaro was featured in a number of pieces that UncoverDC did back in the very early days. He was right on top of this, not documentary, documents. I don't know what is wrong with me all of a sudden. After the break, I went through some sort of a tunnel, and I'm like completely backwards right now. But anyway, Dr. Tadaro was one of the people that we featured on UncoverDC in our early reporting on COVID because he was following it from the very beginning. And he had a lot of really good information. So now these doctors have started they have got their organization, their website is back up. There's tons of material for everybody to read and consume on there. She's got tens of thousands of retweets on all of her tweets. It seems like the public is behind her. This is just a fantastic thing right now. And, it's really interesting too, because she was on Tucker Carlson and she brought up the fact that at the end she stuck this in. Let's listen to her really quickly. This is, again, Dr. Simone
Grateful
Gold.
that you came on tonight. Doctor,
May I say one thing? There's a lot of people saying some negative things about me. I would ask people please to stop saying negative things about me. I'm a board-certified emergency physician. I take good care of patients. We've hired Lynn Wood to help me in this matter, and I hope that puts to rest anything that people might want to say that's defamatory.
I hope so too.
They're going to sue the pants off of anybody that writes anything horrible about them. And this is the only thing that is going to work. This is the only thing that's going to work. Let's quickly listen to a talk about the retracted study from The Lancet. So The Lancet is one of the most respected medical journals in the world, and they never had to retract a study that they published. Well, the study that was published, Dr. James Tadaro was one of the ones who found that they published a study talking about how HCQ or hydroxychloroquine was discredited and it didn't work and blah, blah, blah. But what they found out was that the person who did the study was using fake information, didn't even really exist as a medical professional. And The Lancet used that information anyway. And as soon as it was pointed out, The Lancet was forced to retract that study. And this is a short 2-minute clip of the team here talking about that interaction. Let's listen.
You were the original person who discovered the issue with the Lancet study, and I'm probably not doing it justice describing it, but it ties into this broader point, which is there an agenda behind some of these studies?
This is the second most prestigious medical journal in the world, about 200 years old, okay? It's only second to maybe the New England Journal of Medicine. They published a study supposedly with 96,000 patients that showed that hydroxychloroquine increased your risk of dying by over 2-fold, and then also increased your risk of lethal arrhythmias. Sounds very bad, right? To independent researchers, this study didn't make sense. To the World Health Organization, they embraced it right away. Almost immediately, they suspended all clinical trials on hydroxychloroquine worldwide, okay? Dr. Anthony Fauci went on CNN with Jim Sciutto in an interview and said, in all likelihood, it looks like hydroxychloroquine causes cardiovascular problems right after this study was published. It was independent researchers like myself who actually dug into the data, looked at who was providing this incredibly large data set, which was impossibly large, And it was this corporation called Surgisphere. And many of you heard, but the story, as I dug deeper in that, it was unbelievable. It was almost clearly a shell corporation that had it was an erotic model for hire who was posing as a director of sales in one of their promotional videos, which, like, so, it's unbelievable.
Wait, but like, this is hard for people to really process. So I want you to walk through it more deliberately, please. That the Lancet organization, for lack of a better term, the journal, yeah, which is supposed to be the gold star, something that we trust, published something which is supposed to be it's supposed to be peer-reviewed, right? It's supposed to be something that is widely accepted from a company that has a vested interest to try to discredit hydroxychloroquine through a shell company using, you dig into it, they have some sort of bizarre, almost like credit card fraud, looking landing page, if you will. This is what now is influencing the decision of billions of people.
So you're exactly right.
You were.
I don't even know what to say. So again, it's the independent researcher, the independent journalist, the independent truth seeker that goes in and ferrets out the truth from the lies. And there have been tons of times that this has happened. Tons of times that I myself have done this. When something comes out, don't mind the sirens in the background. When a piece of fiction is published, the internet, the people that care about what's actually going on in the world, search it out and figure it out and disperse it. That's what Dr. James Todaro did with the completely bunk science behind the Lancet study. Absolutely bunk. The retraction was not covered by the media. And that's what they do. They don't cover the retraction as seriously as they cover the actual story. So you'll get a fake story that's published. It'll go out over the internet. It'll get tens of thousands of retweets. Then when they're called out on their nonsense and they need to retract everything, their retraction doesn't get even a quarter of the attention that the actual story got. So the seed of doubt is planted in the minds of the people listening. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Which is why this next piece we're going to talk about really quickly is important. Back to the election. The Washington Post has an article under their analysis. It's called Tracking All of President Trump's False or Misleading Claims. It says that he has made over 20,000 false or misleading claims. You can sort these claims by topic, by when they came out, however you wish. It's really, really sick. Here, this is the quote. And we're also on the southern border, as you know, the wall is going up. It's going up very rapidly. We're at 182 miles. Fact check. Only 3 miles of the border barrier is being constructed by Trump. It doesn't even make sense. Their own fact check doesn't even make grammatical sense when you read it. I'll read it as written. Only 3 miles of the border barrier being constructed by Trump close off parts of the border that did not previously have a barrier. The rest of the new construction is replacement fencing. The quote, wall, as promised, will not be complete by 2021. This has been repeated by Trump 261 times. Their lie is that replacing tiny fences with new border wall doesn't mean anything. That's the lie. Here, they say that Trump has lied about his job being made harder by the fake Russia collusion witch hunt. They say he repeated this lie 227 times, but it's actually 100% the truth. President Trump, it says this, quote, my job was made harder by phony witch hunts, by Russia nonsense. Fact check. President Trump frequently said the special counsel investigation was a witch hunt or a hoax. Special counsel Robert Mueller revealed significant criminal activity by some of Trump's campaign advisors and by Russian individuals and entities. Mueller concluded Russian government actors successfully hacked into computers and obtained emails from persons associated with the Clinton campaign and Democratic Party organizations, and then publicly disseminated those materials through various means. Anyway, it goes on and on. There's another, like, equally as horrible one in here about Spygate and the wiretap claim. The most repeated claims we have, it's a political witch hunt. It just continues. It's been from before I got here, when Obama and Biden and everyone else was spying on my campaign illegally. They were illegally spying on my campaign, and it's a really grave crime. It's the biggest political crime in the history of our country. Amen. Agreed. And I just wanted you guys to hear this real quick. Hear this. Hear the language they use, and I want you to remember it very closely, because every single person, these fake news proprietors, for lack of a better word, because I'm on radio, every single time they do this to try to attack somebody, they use the same language, and it's actually them perpetrating the conspiracy theory. It's them. You'll see, this happens all the time. They attack people with absolute lies that are not true at all, completely made up, completely fabricated, nonsense that they could fact check themselves in 2 minutes and find the truth on. It doesn't matter. All they want is that first narrative to take hold. As soon as the first narrative takes hold, it's all over. All over. This is what the fact checkers at the Washington Post wrote in response to President Trump on July 9th, 2020, saying that they spied on his campaign illegally, which they did. It is clear as day right now. It is clear as day, factually supported, indisputably factually supported, that the Obama administration spied on the president or on Donald Trump's campaign when he was running for president, hands down, no questions asked, 100%, not even a question. I mean, you can't deny it. President Obama was involved. Susan Rice was involved. You're checking her name on the vice presidential short list, aren't you? You see that? You see? Remember the CYA email she wrote to herself? President Obama wants us to do everything right by the book. President Obama would like us to do everything by the book. Everything in this investigation needs to be done completely the right way. No fooling around. Here are the sniveling little fact checkers at the Washington Post. You ready?
Trump has concocted a series of conspiracy theories about Obama spying on his campaign, which he sometimes labels Obamagate. It started with Trump's false claim in 2017 that Obama put a wiretap on him. Then that merged with a report that an FBI informant in Europe, a professor named Stefan Halper, met with at least 3 people working for the Trump campaign in Europe. He did. It's in the IG report. This is why I always freak out when anybody believes anything that the Washington Post says. Ever. If they'll lie to you about things that are available in a government document, what else will they lie to you about? Everything. Literally everything. A former campaign aide, Carter Page, was subject to an FBI warrant. Now Trump is focused on a January 2017 meeting that Obama held in the Oval Office when then FBI Director James Comey, Vice President Joe Biden, and National Security Advisor Susan Rice, among others, what? That's not even a complete sentence. I'm just reading what they wrote here. It's not even grammatically correct or a complete sentence. Rice indicated in an email that Obama was primarily concerned with whether limits should be placed on classified information that was shared with incoming team, in particular, incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, in light of the intercepts of the calls between Flynn and the Russian ambassador. The problem is that the Washington Post conveniently does not tell anyone the real story of what happened with General Flynn. And they say this at the end. It is, although presidents generally are expected not to inquire about a criminal investigation, it is appropriate to have a discussion about a counterintelligence probe, as that involves national security. Somehow, without much explanation, Trump has turned this meeting into a high crime that he considers treason.
There are documents that have been released that are written in these people's own handwriting that explain that counterintelligence briefing they're talking about right there was to target him. I almost can't even continue. That's it's a disgrace that I'm just scrolling through here. Another Trump conspiracy, a debunked conspiracy theory. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories. They're debunked. They're debunked everywhere. These people are sharing conspiracy theories that have been debunked. This is the words: debunked conspiracy theory. What's it called? Extreme white right-wing conspiracy theory. Spread by white supremacists and Nazis. These are all the terms that they use. Debunked conspiracy theory. Anytime you see one of these legacy media outlets use the word debunked conspiracy theory, make sure you pay very close attention to what comes next, because likely 99.9% of the time it's true. They're targeting journalist Andy No right now, trying to get him de-verified on Twitter. I'll tell you right now that they're trying to do the same thing to me to get me kicked off Twitter too. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday, I'm sure. They cannot stand the truth. It literally is like holy water on a demon. They can't stand it. And we've just got to keep going, keep doing what we do, guys. We've got to keep doing what we do. Thank you guys for joining us today. Great show. Thank you for being here again on Uncover DC with Tracy Beanz. We will see you back here on Thursday. Don't forget to check out the website, uncoverdc.com. Make sure to shoot me a follow on Twitter if you're not already.
1590 WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at WSMN1590.com.
USA Radio News with Tim Berg.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says congressional Democrats want to burn cash on 1,000 unrelated things instead of getting money to the hands of the American people.
It's now been more than a week since Senate Republicans released a serious proposal for another major rescue package, $1 trillion for kids, jobs,